hidden in your results, separate from the ethnicity estimate, separate from the percentages that you get, there is a piece of DNA that doesn't change. It doesn't dilute over generations, and it doesn't get erased. So even if your test says 0% Native American ethnicity, you could still have undeniable proof of Native ancestry. Millions of people are being told they don't have any indigenous DNA when their DNA test actually proves otherwise. The test wasn't necessarily built to find it, but I'm going to show you where to look, because I went through this myself, and when I finally found the real proof, it changed everything. This happens all the time. Someone takes a DNA test expecting to see a certain ancestry, and in this case, we'll say Native American ancestry, but when they check the results, nothing, 0%. Now, at this point, most people assume that the family stories were just wrong, and they might be. But DNA testing is more complicated than it seems. Now, there's a couple reasons why your test might not be showing a Native ethnicity, but we're going to dive deeper than ethnicity, so stick with me. Before I tell you where to look, I'm going to give you some other reasons why you might not be seeing the DNA showing up in the ethnicity. Your DNA is compared to existing samples in the company's database, and many Native American tribes have chosen not to participate in these genetic studies, so if they don't have the right references, you can't get matched to them. The second reason is that our DNA dilutes over generations. Ethnicity estimates are based on DNA from both parents, but over time the DNA gets shuffled and recombined, and if your Native ancestor was more than 6 or 7 generations ago, that DNA might not be visible anymore as a percentage, but there is another place where it will never disappear. Unlike ethnicity estimates, haplogroups trace deep ancestry. This is the real story of your lineage, and it goes back thousands and thousands of years. And here's the key. The DNA company may have already given you this information, but you just may not have checked the right section. Also, you may have taken a DNA test that doesn't provide the haplogroup information. So I'll show you the test I took and where you should look. Before I show you where to look for your haplogroups, I'm going to tell you basically what it is. So there are maternal haplogroups. This is a lineage you get from your mom's side, and paternal haplogroups that you get from your dad's side. There are maternal haplogroups that are connected to indigenous ancestry, and it is A, B, C, D, X, and possibly M. If you have one of these showing up on your maternal side, well, it means your mothers, and on and on and on. Passed down indigenous ancestry. It got passed down through the women in the line. This marker does not get diluted over time, so if you have it, you inherit it directly, even if it's very distant. Now, my story showed pretty low indigenous percentages when I first took my test. I wasn't sure what to expect. My dad's side is Southern Italian, and my mom's side is from Louisiana, and we weren't really sure what we were going to get. And so I took the 23andMe test. My mom took the 23andMe test. And before she passed away, my grandmother, my mom's mom, took a 23andMe test. Now, my grandmother's test only showed about maybe like a quarter Hispanic ancestry. Her haplogroup was C1C. And that meant my mom's haplogroup was C1C. And it meant my haplogroup was C1C. And it means I gave my daughters the haplogroup C1C. This is a proof of indigenous heritage that the ethnicity estimate may not show you. You can do the paternal haplogroups. I think they're Q and they're C. So if a male in your family has either Q or C, that's also a direct marker of Native American ancestry. And it would be passed down from father to son, father to son, father to son, regardless of what the ethnicity percentage is that you get on your test. So you definitely want to just check out some of the haplogroups. So now, how do you find your hidden indigenous ancestry? If your DNA test includes haplogroups, 23andMe is the one that I used. And if you want to grab a 23andMe test, I'll leave a link to those below. It will tell you your haplogroups, and I will show you what mine look like. Log into 23andMe. Don't worry about the ancestry overview, but you're actually going to go down to all ancestry reports and click that. And you're going to scroll down, and now it says all ancestry reports, and it shows my maternal haplogroup because I'm a woman and biological woman, and I'm going to click that. I was really shocked by this because we don't, I don't have a connection to any of this heritage really at this point culturally, but it was really interesting to see something that basically it will never go away. It will never be diluted. So it says, Danielle, your maternal haplogroup is C1C. So it'll tell you your haplogroup, and then they'll give you some information, but honestly, it's more interesting to just Google it, I think.
Okay, so I just want to Google C1C so I can just show you, and hopefully you can get excited to research this a little bit yourself. Okay, so let's jump over here. So the C1C, now I've actually found the AI to be usually totally wrong, but it's correct here that it originated, or often it originates in American ancestry, Native ancestry. Here is a paper about the sequencing of Mexican Americans and their Native American ancestry. And so here it says, in the case of the more abundant and widely distributed haplogroup C1, there are sub-branches of that: C1b, C1c, and C1d. And mine was C1c. And it's super interesting to see these connections, and how, again, even if the DNA percentages are small or gone at the point you're taking the test, there is this permanent connection to that ancestry here. So that was a paper I had read, which was super interesting. And then I really enjoyed DNA Explained. It's like an older blog, and she talks a lot about the Native American haplogroups. She was talking about that, this article in particular is about the high percentage of Native American DNA in the Mexican population, which is really interesting because I didn't even know that we had Mexican ancestry. And I guess, saying ancestry, it's like Mexican's not ancestry, it's a nationality, but ancestors who were in Mexico. And I believe that this is where this indigenous DNA comes from.
So just to repeat, if your test doesn't have haplogroups, the Ancestry test is a great test, but as far as I know, it doesn't have haplogroups. The 23andMe does. I think there's a lot of value in that. You may have, your DNA test may have missed your native ancestry, but doesn't mean that the family story is necessarily wrong. You just need to look in the right place. So let me know if you took the 23andMe test, if you knew about the haplogroups, if something like this happened to you. I did have my dad take it, so I had the paternal one. And then I think I got his test deleted somehow, which was very stupid. But his test was really interesting because he's Southern Italian, but I think his haplogroup was Middle Eastern. I'll have to double check what it was. I think it was like J2 something. I think it's like an Egyptian haplogroup, which is interesting because it kind of just shows you the continuity in the genetic line of really where you came from a very long time ago. And I think that's really awesome. And if you'd like to dig into your native heritage a little bit more, check out my video on shovel teeth, which is a trait that 92% of Native American Indigenous Americans have. Let me know if you have it too. Otherwise, we'll talk soon.
Over the last 2 years, I've been telling the stories that often get ignored. But lately, I've been facing an uphill battle behind the scenes of each video. My videos are getting flagged by YouTube when all I'm doing is sharing real history. If these stories have ever resonated with you or given you a new perspective, grab some Be a Good Ancestor merch and help me keep this channel going. Check out nytonashville.com.